Hello everyone and welcome to iptutorial.com. My name is Vakas and I will be your instructor for free CCNA course. Today we will be covering what are the trunk interfaces, what are the types of encapsulation it supports, and what are the different modes of the trunk like dynamic, desirable, auto, and we will look into that. Okay, and how the native VLANs operates and what is the DTP protocol. Okay, in the last section we will be having the configuration of it. I already added the timestamps, so feel free to skip the sections which you already know. Let's get started. Let's assume a design that we have two different switches. We have accounts teams and HR teams. Okay, and we have VLAN 100 and VLAN 200. And Andy wants to communicate with HANA, which are part of VLAN 100. The interface which is between these two devices, okay, if you configure it to be part of VLAN 100, everything good. Absolutely no issues. Okay, it can be actually. All right. So they will be starting communication between these two devices, right? There is no issues. But the problem comes up when John also wants to communicate on the other side where Chris is sitting. Okay, they want to communicate. You cannot keep the same interface in two different VLANs. That is where the problem starts. So that is why you need a trunk interface. What is a trunk interface? The trunk interface is an interface which carries the data of different VLANs on the same interface. Does it make sense? Okay, let's try to understand more. To configure a trunk, it's not a big deal. You just have to issue Switchport mode trunk. We also call it always on trunk or static trunks. I will be explaining this concept in the next slide. But I'm here to make you understand what is the concept behind this interface. It's not just the configuration. So don't bother yourself. I have put the commands in the description sections. You can download it from there. No problem. Okay. There are two types of encapsulation. We have Dot1q, or also it's named as IEEE 802.1q, which is actually a standard as well. Okay. And the second one is ISL, okay, which is Cisco Proprietary and not available on the interfaces. Dot1q is widely used in the market and it's available almost on all the switches. Okay. And ISL is only for Cisco. It's not available on small series. It's available for high-end series. So we will not be discussing much on ISL. We will be more looking into the Dot1q because you will see it a lot in the market. The thing is, they both does the same job to tag the frames with the VLAN IDs so that you can send all of the data on the single interface. Hope it's clear for you now. There are three different modes of the trunk. One is trunk, which is configured by Switchport mode trunk. This is also named as static trunks or always on trunks. Okay, this one, it does not do anything else. Basically, it does not wait for the negotiation messages or it does not tries to initiate it because you have told the interface you are always going to be trunk. The second mode we have is the dynamic desirable. In this one, what happens, think in a way that one guy is there who is shouting, let's initiate a trunk, let's initiate a trunk. Okay. And whoever listens it creates a trunk. So basically it initiates the negotiation with the other interfaces to initiate a trunk interface. Okay. The other side will be, it could be dynamic auto, it could be dynamic desirable, it will initiate the trunk. Okay. The last mode is dynamic auto. In this mode, what happens, you are just listening for the negotiation packets. By default, this is the mode which is set on all the switches. All the ports are dynamic auto. You need to either change any port to dynamic desirable to make it a trunk, or you will be putting it to always on trunk. Okay. If you will be, let's say both of the sides are dynamic auto, they will not be communicating for the trunk. Hope you got the point. When two switches are communicating, there will be frames traveling from switch 1 to switch 2. All right. So in this frame, it's a layer 2 header technically. So in this layer 2 header, what will happen is when you will configure it a trunk interface, it will add a 802.1q header in that. This header is which actually tags every frame and mentions which VLAN ID is going to be, which is 12 bits. All right. So it will be highlighting this frame is for VLAN 10. When the other side of the switch receives that, it will strip the header and see, oh, this tag is for VLAN 12. So it will send exactly to VLAN 12. This frame is not going to go anywhere else. That is what this 802.1q does. Now you understood what is 802.1q and how each frame gets tagged for the identification of different VLANs. Okay. If the packet is moving from switch 1 to switch 2 and it is not tagged, so technically there is no tag assigned to it, but the data is moving on the trunk, that is what native VLAN is. This is a special function introduced in 802.1q, okay, which identifies the traffic on the other side. Let's assume that you have not mentioned that in which VLAN it will be. Okay. The second switch, which is receiving this data, it will automatically assume this data to be in the native VLAN. By default, this native VLAN is VLAN 1. You can completely change it. VLAN 1 is untagged, so sometime you might hear on the market untagged VLAN or native VLAN. It's interchangeable, but I will not say it's completely interchangeable, because you can change it to VLAN 100 maybe, or maybe VLAN 200, whatever you want to do. Okay, once it's configured, now it is a tagged traffic, right? So it's technically not an untagged traffic. The other side, once it receives, it will put all the traffic in the native VLAN. It's time to look into the DTP, dynamic trunking protocol. Okay, what it does when you change the mode from the default one, dynamic auto, to dynamic desirable, okay, what happens? It will be sending a DTP packet to the other switch to coordinate on the modes. Okay, let's say what will happen from my side. If I'm saying I'm dynamic desirable and you are dynamic auto, I'm speaking, I'm negotiating the communication, you will be listening. So once you listen that communication, you respond back and we initiate a trunk. So this DTP protocol, what it does, it initiates the trunk. It will be agreeing on the encapsulation on the interface. If it is set to negotiate, if the high-end series are there, it could negotiate ISL trunk. Otherwise, by default, it will be initiating the packets, and if the switches are small, it will be having 802.1q trunk. That's it for DTP. Hope everything is clear. Let's get started with the lab. On this switch 1, we have Ethernet 1/0/1 connected to the switch 2. And if you issue a command show interface Ethernet 1/0/1 switchport, you will notice that there are all the defaults set on this device. And the important things to be noted here is the administrative mode, which it says dynamic auto. In this mode, it is not gonna go and send the negotiation packet to the other interface for initiating a trunk. Okay. The next one we have is the static access mode. What is mean is, like, if it is not getting a DTP packet, it will assume itself to be an access port. Okay. And the next one is, it says administrative trunking encapsulation mode is in negotiation or negotiated basically. Okay. So in negotiated mode, what happens is, if it will be receiving an ISL request for creating a trunk, it will create an ISL trunk. If it didn't receive that, it will be receiving Dot1q trunk interface packet, it will create a Dot1q. Okay. If it is connected to a higher end series, it will make it ISL. When it's saying negotiation of trunking is on, what is the meaning is that if it receives the DTP packet from the other side, it will initiate a trunk, which is good, but not good if you think about the security. Why? Let's say you have connected a switch on the other side, which is it's unauthorized switch, or maybe you have made a software switch, or it could be an attack on the network. Okay, and you have generated a DTP packet on this interface. Once it receives, it creates a trunk, which is not good. Okay, so access mode, it says is in VLAN 1 by default. All the interfaces are in VLAN 1, so it's fine. The last one, important one, is trunking native mode VLAN. So what happens when the trunk will get initiated from one side or the other side? They will be agreeing what is the native VLAN going to be. We already discussed the native VLAN, right? So all the traffic will be put into this VLAN if there is no tag set on that frame. The next thing is, if you issue a command show interface trunk, you notice that there is no trunks. Why? Because both are in dynamic auto mode. You will not see anything. Let's change the mode for one of that and see what happens. Okay. Let's go to configure terminal. You will see interface Ethernet 1/0/1, and you just have to issue a command switchport mode And let's read all of these modes actually. So these are the modes we have already seen. It could be in access. So you will be making it an access port. We already seen it in the last one. The next one is dynamic. So this mode actually have dynamic auto and dynamic desirable. We will have a look. And the last one is the trunk. This is which always on trunk or static trunk. I'm going to convert it to a simulation mode so that we can see what happened when we will be doing that packet initiation from one side. I have issued the command switchport mode. Let's say dynamic desirable. Here if you see we have both of them, auto and desirable. So let's make it desirable. Okay. And we can go back to the lab, and here is something new. Okay, we have a DTP packet. Let's look into that, what happens. Okay, so if you notice here, it has added a layer 2 header, IEEE 802.13 header. And if you look into in details of that one, okay, so this is the header. We have already had a look. In this one, what it is mentioning is I'm sending a dynamic desirable packet, okay, which is the status of that interface, and it's running version 1. So we will notice what happens. What is the reply coming? Okay, let's go back. Let's play it. All right. So once the packet goes from switch 1 to switch 2, we notice there is a reply coming, and we have a reply with this one. The 802.1q tag is added. And if we move to look into the output PDU, we will see what other switch is mentioning. Other switch is mentioning that I'm running in dynamic auto. So it's just highlighting that it's replying to the packet, nothing else. Okay. So it will be initiating the trunk. Once this handshake is done, we will see there is a trunk interface. If you issue a command show interface trunk, you will notice there is a trunk interface, and current mode is desirable. It is started with 802.1q. It is in trunking. Native VLAN is 1, and you can have the configuration from VLAN 1 to 1005. So you can configure approximately 1006 VLANs on the switch. And you might be asking, there are other VLANs as well. Yes, we call it extended VLANs. You can configure it on higher series switches. The last one we will be looking at is how to configure a static trunk. Okay, and we also call it always on trunk as well. You will just quickly go to interface gig-1/0/1. Okay, and switchport trunk encapsulation. If you have ISL, you will be able to set it here, or by default it is Dot1q. So you can use the Dot1q's and switchport mode trunk. All right, and if you do this show interface trunk, if you notice that the mode is on and encapsulation it or 802.1q, which we have set it already. So when you see a mode on, in the earlier one, if you remember, we have seen a dynamic desirable written. In this one, it's on. This means it's a static trunk. Hope you got the idea. What are the trunks? What is the DTP and how this whole operates? If I have increased your knowledge in any ways, please hit like and subscribe. I will be covering CCNA, NP, and IE. I want you to be expert of networking. I will see you in the next lecture. Take care. Bye-bye.